Come along well. Doing our best to continue to push this thing forward, dealing with some short-term setbacks is kind of a part of spring ball as far as little tweaks and things like that. So getting to that point where we got to push through some being hurt and but overall I think we've come a long way in a short period of time and got a good foundation set for our defense.
And I know earlier you said you wanted to just kind of see effort now, but as we're getting close to the spring game, what are you looking for more now teaching to this group?
The effort's never going to change. I mean, that'll always be there. And if we can come out of spring ball with just a better understanding of what it really means to play hard, and it will have been time well spent. But as we go, we'd like to see the techniques that we're teaching show up regularly on the film when we watch it. Make sure our techniques are showing up, and we're constantly in pursuit of a high level of execution, which we're a far cry from right now. But it'll be a constant work in progress.
Do you feel like your players are at the point where they can play fast while knowing the scheme, or is there still some work to be done?
It's kind of the conversation we had after practice with the whole group was, when we put the first group out there, we feel like we can get it executed, and we're playing defense at what I would call high level right now for a short period of time. But there's just too big of a disparity right now between our first group and our other groups, and just being able to play fast and it's just a thorough understanding of the assignments and knowing that the picture changes. It's one thing to be able to see it on a piece of paper. It's another thing to go out there when you're tired and the motion and the different formations and balls on or off the hash. I mean, there's so many more variables that the guys that have played a lot of football are understanding, and the younger guys are trying to gather.
Now, these type of things, is this typical in terms of at this point in time in the spring practice for a program?
I think so. Yeah, we have again put an emphasis on effort all the way, and I think in the off season you can get some good things done schematically and going back and reteaching and reinstalling usually makes more sense the second time around, the third time around, the fourth time around. So we want to make sure while we have our cleats on and we're on the grass that we understand what it means to play hard and play with effort. And again, we want to see the techniques we're coaching show up, and we'll continue to coach a scheme throughout the off season.
So we've heard a little bit about how these linebackers are being challenged more. I think Zay, obviously, we've heard him say, he inspires everyone with how he plays. Before I get to Tyler and Jeff, what is it about Zay that is inspiring the way he plays from what you've seen so far?
He just plays the game at a different speed. You talk about a guy that knows it and sees it. He knows it and he sees it. I mean, just the best way I could say it is he's playing on speed 2 and everybody else is playing on speed 1. And just when you see a person that executes at that high level and has some juice and some energy about the way he does it, it's hard not to be inspired. It inspires me. I've been around this thing for since I was a little kid. I've been around football, and he's a rare breed. He's got juice and energy, and our defense will go as he goes.
Is that kind of cool when you're coming in as a new coach, where you find somebody you can gravitate to and say, okay, here's someone who not just is a leader from experience, but is a leader with how they play? Does that make it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. All the best teams I've ever been a part of were player led. Initially, if your culture is driven by coaches, that could be a good thing, but it will only go so far. When your best players are your best leaders and you're most accountable, that bodes well for your team, and I think that's what Zay gives us.
All right, and then Tyler and Jeffrey, I know they're being challenged a little bit more, but just as newcomers, how have you seen them just kind of grow this spring a little bit, just try to get the hang of things?
Sure. I've been very pleased with both of them. We have as a staff, they're great players and very talented. I'm more impressed just with their attitude, their effort, and their energy. They bring it every day. They're engaged in every meeting. They're for guys that have played in games before and understand what it's all about. They're still very coachable. They want to get better, and they've done an outstanding job for us. I take all that back about Jeff, though. I didn't mean any of the nice things I said about Jeff. I take it all. What's up, Jeff?
How's the chemistry with this group, the defensive group, just day in and day out?
Good. I think that was one of the first things we addressed. We spent the offseason 1 day a week for almost 2 months. We got together on Wednesdays and we did no football. It was no football. We did trivia and I can't remember what else. We minute to win it games and a whole bunch of things like the card games and all kinds of stuff like that. We did Uno one day. So, and we just kind of went mixed the groups up and didn't let them sit by position or class or anything like that. And it sounds so silly, but you'd be surprised how many teams I've been a part of where not everybody knew everybody's name. So it starts with knowing who they are, where they're from, why they do what they do. And I think, with this age group, once you get the ball rolling in that department, the relationships take care of themselves. But, we will go as far as the love of our brother, and I'm sure that's overblown and all that, but that's the reality.
Now, I know something like that helps them get to know each other, but it also kind of helps you as a coach see a different side of them. So how has that been for you, kind of seeing that part of them just off the field?
I really enjoy it. The coolest thing about this profession, about doing, coaching college football, are the relationships you build, and just watching those guys. Two guys you mentioned. You got Tyler and Jeff are from very different, and Zay. I mean, those three guys, they're all very different people from very, very different places, and I mean, they're like the three amigos now. So pretty cool in that regard to see all that happen.
I heard somebody call them like Musketeers. I guess like Amigos, Musketeers.
Musketeers, even better, even better.
So what kind of coverage, what the hell coverage was that when the safety forgot to drop to the deep third?
I don't have an answer on that. I believe we hit the quarterback before the ball got off, though. That's right.
During the press play today, with the spring game, obviously we won't talk to you before then, but just what are you going to be looking for the most? Is it going to be effort, or is it something you want to see from the spring game, with this being like the last scrimmage of the day?
Sure. I want to see, who can play football. I want to see, and what I mean is, who can play a block, get off a block, and make a tackle. I want to see our cover players cover. I want to see our D linemen get off the ball and control blocks. I can tell you this, we're not going to try and fool anybody, with it. We're going to be very vanilla in what we do and make sure our guys know what they're doing and give them a chance to go play. So you can make a tackle in space, who can sack the quarterback, who can win a one-on-one. That's what it'll be about.
Real quick on the second scrimmage coming up next Friday, do you kind of, you always talk about when you get to a season, the biggest jumps from game 1 to game 2. I'm sure they're anticipating getting to that final scrimmage next week because it's the second kind of grind it out between scrimmages. Do you anticipate, or is that what you look for next week, the big jump in spring practice?
Yeah, we'd like to see improvement for sure. Really what we want to see, what I want to see is a mistake that we made before. I'd like to see it be corrected. That's a win in my book. But I'll come out healthy. I'll tell you that. We come out healthy, we'll call it a win. So.
I guess last thing, because you mentioned Jeff, Tyler, and Zay all being three different backgrounds, whatever. How fun is it to see them mesh together in spite of that? Because obviously Zay's been here a while, Tyler and Jeff have played ball, but how fun is it seeing their chemistry kind of develop?
Yeah, very cool, very cool. I mean, that's the beauty of this game. I mean, there are people that I played with, that I have lasting relationships, that outside of football there's zero chance that we would know who each other are. So I think the game brings a lot of people together, and it's always cool to see.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.